Hi guys, let's continue with ABHYAAS Test 4 UPSC Prelims 2020 from VISION IAS. Question number 26. Which of the following statements is or are correct with reference to the recently published Export Preparedness Index, that is EPI? Number one, it aims to assess the readiness of the states in terms of their export potential and their performance. Number two, it is published by Directorate General of Foreign Trade, that is DGFT. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The correct answer is A. That is one only. So only statement 1 is correct. Niti Aayog released the Export Preparedness Index, that is the EPI. The think tank was partnered by the Institute of Competitiveness. It assessed and ranked states in terms of their export potential and their performance. Hence, statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is not correct. It is based on four key parameters, namely policy, business ecosystem, export ecosystem, and export performance. States were classified geographically, that is coastal, landlocked, Himalayan, and Union Territory or city states. The report says that 70% of exports of India are dominated by five states, namely Maharashtra, Karnataka, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, and Telangana. Gujarat has topped the index, followed by Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu. This is mainly because of its location near the coast. The other three coastal states that featured in the top 10 rankings are Kerala, Orissa, and Karnataka. Among the landlocked states, Rajasthan was the top performer, followed by Telangana and Haryana. In the category of Himalayan states, Uttarakhand topped the list, followed by Tripura and Himachal Pradesh. The report also says that the states lack in providing basic trade support. There are only 10 states in the country that provide trade guide and only 15 states ensured online portal to disseminate information to disseminate information to exporters. The per capita export of India stood at 241 USD. The per capita export of South Korea was 11,900 USD and that of China was 18,000 USD. The report says that India has a huge potential to boost exports. The index was also framed based on other 11 sub-pillars like institutional framework, export promotion policy, business environment, transport connectivity, export infrastructure, access to finance, R&D infrastructure, trade support, growth orientation, export diversification, and infrastructure. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 27. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. The conditions for being listed as a national party are specified under the Election Symbols Reservation and Allotment Order 1968. Number 2. Two recognized state parties can have the same party symbol if they are not contenders in the same state. Number 3. Returning officer of a constituency is authorized to allot election symbols to independent candidates from the preferences given by the candidates. Which of the statements given above are correct? The correct answer is D. That is 1, 2, and 3. So all the statements 1, 2, 3 are all correct. The Election Commission lists political parties as national party, state party, or registered unrecognized party. The conditions for being listed as a national or a state party was specified under the Election Symbols Reservation and Allotment Order 1968. Hence statement 1 is correct. For recognition as a national party, the conditions specified are number 1, a 6% vote share in the last assembly polls in each of any 4 states as well as 4 seats in the last Lok Sabha polls. Number 2, 2% of all Lok Sabha seats in the last such election with MPs elected from at least 3 states. Or number 3, recognition as a state party in at least 4 states. As per the Election Symbols Reservation and Allotment Order 1968, the Election Commission allots symbols for anyone contesting in polls. A person contesting on behalf of a recognized political party will inherit the party's symbol. In the case of a recognized political party, the Commission allows it to reserve a symbol. 2 or more recognized political parties can have the same symbol provided they are not contenders in the same state or union territory. In case a recognized political party splits, the Commission decides which faction can use the symbol. Hence statement 2 is correct. An independent candidate or someone contesting on behalf of an unrecognized political party has to approach the Commission and get a symbol allotted from the list of free symbols available. A candidate will have to provide 3 symbols from the free list at the time of submission of nomination papers, one of which will be allocated to him or her by the returning officer of that constituency. Hence statement 3 is correct. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 28. Consider the following pairs. On the one side we have caves and on the other side we have mountains or ranges. Number 1, Lomas Rishi, Sayadari. Number 2, Pital Korah, Satamala. Number 3, Kondana, Aravali. Which of the pairs given above is or are correctly matched? The correct answer is A. That is 2 only. So only the second pair is correct. That is Pital Korah, Satamala. During the period of Buddhism and Jainism, caves became an important structure for the construction of chatyas and viharas. Different artisans lent their hand in making the cave structures beautiful with carvings and paintings. Following are some of the important caves. The first one is Lomas Rishi Caves, also called the Grotto of Lomas Rishi, is one of the man-made Barabar caves in the Barabar and Nagarjuna hills, part of Vindhya mountains of Jehanabad district in the Indian state of Bihar. So it is in Jehanabad district in the Indian state of Bihar. It was built during the Asokan period of the Maurya Empire in the 3rd century BC as part of the sacred architecture of the ABHYAAS, an ancient religious and philosophical group of India. Hence pair 1 is not correctly matched. Next we have Pital Korah Caves. The Pital Korah Caves in the Satamala range of the Western Ghats of Maharashtra in India are an ancient Buddhist site consisting of 14 rock-cut cave monuments which date back to the 3rd century BCE, making them one of the earliest examples of rock-cut architecture in India. Hence, pair 2 is correctly matched. The last one is Kondana Caves. It is located in small village, that is Kondana, 33 km north of Lonavala in Sayadri Mountains and 16 km northwest of Karla Caves in Raigad district. This cave group has 16 Buddhist caves. The caves were excavated in 1st century BC, hence pair 3 is not correctly matched. The construction on the wooden pattern is notable. One can reach to the cave by descending from Rajmachi village. The Kondana Caves enclose sculptures, vihara, chahitya, and stupas, specimens of ancient Buddhist architecture. Although there was an earthquake in the early 1900s, many stupas, the fourth entrance. Okay, so although there was an earthquake in the early 1900s, many stupas, the front entrance and the floor of the caves were damaged, but what remains intact is the beautiful chaitya that welcomes one to the rock-cut caves that were created around 200 BC, 200 BC. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 29. The Paris call recently seen in the news is A or N. Option A, initiative of World Bank to promote funding in developing economies. Number B, alliance under the aegis of United Nations Refugee Agency to promote international understanding and cooperation on refugees. Number C, alliance to eradicate cross-border terrorism and organized crime. Number D, initiative of group of countries aimed at developing common principles for securing cyberspace. The correct answer is D. So the correct answer is D. That is, it is an initiative of group of countries aimed at developing common principles for securing cyberspace. The Paris Call for Trust and Security in Cyberspace was commenced at UNESCO Internet Governance Forum (IGF) meeting recently convened in Paris. It aims at developing common principles for securing cyberspace. More than 190 signatures were obtained on the Paris Call, including 130 from private sector and more than 50 member nations. Prominent countries like India, US, China, Russia did not sign the agreement. At present, there are two prominent models of Internet governance. The first one is multi-stakeholder model supported by Western nations like US. Decentralized governance institutions where non-state actors like corporates, NGOs and civil society have a say in making globally acceptable norms regulating cyberspace. It gives recognition to technical expertise of corporates. Number 2 is multilateral model supported by Russia and China. Governance model based on agreements between multiple governments with limited involvement of non-state actors. It holds sovereignty of nation state in managing cyberspace and provides the scope for the exercise of inherent right of self-defense and the law of state responsibility, including countermeasures in the cyberspace. Hence, option D is the correct answer. Now let's come to question number 30. Which of the following conditions intensifies the Indian monsoon? Number 1, strong tropical easterly jet stream. Number 2, negative Indian Ocean dipole. Number 3, weakening of Somali jet stream. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The correct answer is A. That is one only. So, strong tropical easterly jet stream. India's climate is tropical monsoon type. The word monsoon has been derived from the Arabic word mausim, which means season. The monsoon is not a simple response to heating but a more complex interaction of topography, wind, and sea, as demonstrated by its abrupt rather than gradual withdrawal from the region. Monsoon formation is influenced by following mechanisms. Number 1, the differential heating and cooling of land and water creates low pressure on the landmass of India while the sea around experience comparatively high pressure. Number 2, the shift of the position of Intertropical Convergence Zone (ITCZ) in summer over the Ganga Plain. This is the equatorial trough normally positioned about 5 degrees north of the equator. It is also known as the monsoon trough during the monsoon season. The presence of the number 3, the presence of the high pressure area east of Madagascar, approximately at 20 degrees south over the Indian Ocean. The intensity and position of this high pressure area affects the Indian monsoon. Number 4, the Tibetan Plateau gets intensely heated during summer, which results in strong vertical air currents and the formation of low pressure over the plateau about 9 km above sea level. Number 5, the movement of the westerly jet stream to the north of the Himalayas and the presence of the tropical easterly jet stream over the Indian peninsula during summer. Role of Indian Ocean dipole. It is defined by the difference in air surface temperature between two areas or poles, hence a dipole. A western pole in the Arabian Sea, Western Indian Ocean, and an eastern pole in the Eastern Indian Ocean, south of Indonesia. The IOD, that is Indian Ocean Dipole, involves a periodic oscillation of sea surface temperature, that is SST, between positive, neutral, and negative phases. A positive phase sees greater than average sea surface temperature and greater precipitation in the Western Indian Ocean region, with a corresponding cooling of waters in the Eastern Indian Ocean, which tends to cause troughs in adjacent land areas of Indonesia and Australia. The negative phase of the IOD brings about the opposite conditions, with warmer water and greater precipitation in the Eastern Indian Ocean and cooler and drier conditions in the West. Positive IOD, which is associated with warm sea surface temperatures of Western Indian Ocean, is favorable for monsoon in Indian subcontinent. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Tropical easterly jet stream are the upper layer. Tropical easterly jet stream are the upper level easterly wind that starts in late June and continues until early September. It is centered on 15 degree north, 50 to 80 degree east, and extends from Southeast Asia to Africa. Tropical easterly jet TEJ, that is stage, sets in after the subtropical Z has shifted to the north of the Himalayas in early June. This jet descends over the Indian Ocean and intensifies its high pressure, well known as Mascarene High. It is from this high pressure cell that the onshore winds start blowing towards the thermally induced low pressure area developed in the northern part of the Indian subcontinent. After crossing the equator, such winds become southwesterly and are known as the southwesterly summer monsoon. Hence, statement 1 is correct. The progress of the southwest monsoon towards India is greatly aided by the onset of Somali jet that transits Kenya, Somalia, and Sahel. It was observed to flow from Mauritius and the northern part of the island of Madagascar before reaching the coast of Kenya at about 3 degrees south. It strengthens permanent high near Madagascar and also helps to drive southwest monsoons towards India at a greater pace and intensity. Hence, statement 3 is not correct. Now let's come to next question, that is question number 31. Consider the following statements with respect to the recent amendments made under the Aadhar and Other Laws Amendment Act 2019. Statement 1. A state legislature can make authentication of an Aadhar number holder mandatory for the provision of any service. Number 2, an individual can apply for cancellation of his or her Aadhar after attaining the age of 18 years. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is B, that is 2 only. So only statement 2 is correct. The Unique Identification Authority of India, that is UIDAI, Uday, issues Aadhar, that is this Aadhar is a 12-digit unique identification number to all residents of India. To further strengthen Aadhar ecosystem, Government of India recently passed Aadhar and Other Laws Amendment Act 2019. Highlights of this act. Number 1, it allows an individual to voluntarily use his or her Aadhar number to establish his identity by authentication or offline verification. Number 2, under the Aadhar Act, an individual's identity may be verified by Aadhar authentication. Authentication involves submitting the Aadhar number and their biometric or demographic information to the Central Identities Data Repository for verification. The amendment additionally allows offline verification of an individual's identity without authentication. Number 3, it specifies that at the time of enrolling a child to obtain an Aadhar number, the enrolling agency shall seek the consent of his parents or guardian. After attaining 18 years, within 6 months of attaining the age, the child may apply for cancellation of his Aadhar. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Number 4, it creates Unique Identification Authority of India Fund. All fees, grants and charges received by the UDAY shall be credited to this fund. Number 5, under the Act, courts can take cognizance of an offence only if the UDAY registers a complaint. The amendment allows the individual to register complaints in certain cases, including impersonation or disclosure of their identity. The amendment provides that mandatory authentication of an Aadhar number holder for the provision of any service shall take place if such authentication is required by a law made by Parliament, not state legislature. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. So the correct answer is statement 2 only. Question number 32. With reference to the guidelines of the Reserve Bank of India, that is RBI, regarding non-performing assets, that is NPA, which of the following statements is or are correct? Statement 1. A home loan on which interest and principal payment has remained overdue for more than 4 months is definitely a non-performing asset, that is NPA. Number 2, a substandard asset is an asset which has remained in the category of NPA for a minimum period of 18 months. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The correct answer is A. That is 1 only. So only statement 1 is correct. According to the RBI guidelines, a non-performing asset, that is NPA, was defined as a credit facility, that is a loan or an advance in respect of which the interest or installment of principal has remained overdue for a specified period of time. With a view to moving towards international best practices and to ensure greater transparency, the RBI decided to adopt the 90 days overdue, replacing the 180 days overdue norm for identification of NPAs. From the year ending March 31st, 2004, a non-performing asset, that is NPA, shall be a loan or an advance where number 1, interest or installment of principal remain overdue for a period of more than 9 days in respect of a term loan, that is a long-term loan, example home loan. Hence statement 1 is correct. Point number 2. The account remains out of order for a period of more than 90 days in respect of an overdraft or cash credit, that is OD or CC. Point number 3. The bill remains overdue for a period of more than 90 days in the case of bills purchased and discounted. Point number 4. Any amount to be received remains overdue for a period of more than 90 days in respect of other accounts. In the case of agricultural loans, a loan granted for short duration crops like rice, wheat, etc., in which crop season is less than 1 year will be treated as NPA if the installment of principal or interest thereon remains overdue for 2 crop seasons. A loan granted for long duration crops, example sugarcane, etc., in which the crop season is more than 1 year will be treated as NPA if the installment of principal or interest thereon remains overdue for 1 crop season. Now let's come to categories of NPA. Number 1, substandard assets. A substandard asset would be one which has remained NPA for a period less than or equal to 12 months. Earlier it was 18 months. Hence statement 2 is not correct. Number 2, doubtful assets. An asset would be classified as doubtful if it has remained in the substandard category for a period of 12 months. Earlier it was 18 months. Number 3, loss assets. A loss asset is one where loss has been identified by the bank or internal or external auditors or the RBI inspection, but the amount has not been written off wholly. In other words, such an asset is considered uncollectible and of such little value that its continuance as a bankable asset is not warranted, although there may be some salvage or recovery value. So the correct answer is A, that is one only. Now let's come to question number 33. Suppose a person X is elected as a member of Rajya Sabha after winning by a narrow margin over a person Y. Y decides to challenge the result of the election. Which of the following forums would be available to Y in the first instance to file a petition in this regard? Number A, High Court. Number B, Supreme Court. Number C, Election Commission of India. Number D, Election Tribunal. The correct answer is A, that is High Court. The maximum strength of the Rajya Sabha is fixed at 250, out of which 238 are to be the representatives of the states and union territories, that is elected indirectly, and 12 are nominated by the President. Election or nomination of the members. The representatives of states in the Rajya Sabha are elected by the elected members of state legislative assemblies. The representatives of each union territory in the Rajya Sabha are indirectly elected by members of an electoral college specially constituted for the purpose. The President nominates 12 members to the Rajya Sabha from people who have special knowledge or practical experience in art, literature, science, and social service. The Representation of the People Act 1951 provides that the court having the jurisdiction to try an election petition related to the election of members of parliament and state legislatures is the High Court. This power comes under the original jurisdiction of the High Court. In the case of Rajya Sabha and election, petition can be filed in the concerned state's High Court. Hence, option A is the correct answer. Now let's come to question number 34. Sea turtles and grey African parrots are some of the sought after exotic species in India. Which of the following is or are required for importing live exotic animals to India? Number 1. No objection certificate, that is NOC, of the Chief Wildlife Warden of the state. Number 2. Grant of license from the Director General of Foreign Trade, that is DGFT. Number 3. Approval from the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The correct answer is C. That is 1 and 2 only. So only 1 and 2 are correct. The Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change (MOEF&CC) on June 1, 2020 issued an advisory to streamline and formalize the process of importing live exotic animals. The advisory defines exotic live species as animal or plant species moved from their original range, that is location, to a new one. Several exotic species of birds, reptiles, small mammals, fishes, and even some plants are imported. Some of the most sought after exotic species in India are ball python, scarlet macaw, sea turtles, sugar glider, marmoset, and grey African parrots. The ministry has said exotic live species shall be construed to mean only the animals named under the appendices 1, 2, and 3 of the Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species, that is CITES, of wild fauna and flora. The advisory has provisions for import and disclosure of exotic animals and their progeny already in India. A person trying to import a live exotic animal will have to submit an application for grant of a license to the Director General of Foreign Trade (DGFT) under the provisions of the advisory. The importer will also have to attach a no objection certificate, that is NOC, of the Chief Wildlife Warden of the state concerned along with the application. For those people who have already imported exotic animals, a declaration will have to be made within 6 months, which would not require submissions on the provenance of the animal. However, if the declaration is made after 6 months, documents will have to be submitted. The major reason to do this is to regulate trade because the issue of zoonotic diseases is also linked to wildlife. With this advisory, we will know how many such exotic animals are there in the country. The Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee (GEAC) functions in the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change (MOEF and CC). As per Rules 1989, it is responsible for the appraisal of activities involving large-scale use of hazardous microorganisms and recombinants in research and industrial production from the environmental angle. The committee is also responsible for the appraisal of proposals relating to the release of genetically engineered, that is GE organisms and products into the environment, including experimental field trials. It does not deal with the import of live exotic species, hence option C is the correct answer. Now let's come to next question, that is question number 35. Consider the following statements with reference to the distribution of coal in India. Number 1. The bulk of coal production in India is from Gondwana Coalfields. Number 2. Tertiary coalfields are mainly found in peninsular India. Number 3. Most of the tertiary deposits contain high quality anthracite coal. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is A, that is one only. So only statement 1 is correct. Coal is the most important and abundant fossil fuel in India. Coal is a combustible black or brownish black sedimentary rock with a high amount of carbon and hydrocarbons. Coal is classified as a non-renewable energy source because it takes millions of years to form. It accounts for 55% of the country's energy needs. Types of coal on the basis of carbon content. Number 1. Anthracite. It is the best quality of coal which carries 80 to 95% carbon content. Number 2. Bituminous. It carries 60 to 80% of carbon content and a low level of moisture content. Number 3. Lignite. It is often brown in color. It carries 40 to 55% carbon content. Number 4. Peat. It has less than 40% carbon content. It is in the first stage of transformation from wood to coal. The coal-bearing strata of India are geologically classified into two main categories, that is Gondwana Coalfields and Tertiary coalfields. Let's come to Gondwana Coalfields. Gondwana coal comprises about 98% of the total reserves and 99% of the production of coal in India. In this system, there are 113 major coal fields found all over India. Gondwana coal is said to be about 250 million years old. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Now let's come to the next one, that is tertiary coalfields. The tertiary coal share only about 1% of the total production in India. Tertiary coal is mainly confined to the extra peninsula, that is northeastern states, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, etc. The tertiary rock systems bear coals of younger age from 15 to 60 million years. Hence statement 2 is not correct. Younger tertiary formations generally have low carbon and a high percentage of moisture and sulfur. It takes a few 100 million years for the carbon content to improve. Therefore, most of the tertiary coal is the lignite coal, which is of inferior quality with around 30 to 50% carbon. Hence, statement 3 is not correct. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 36. Consider the following statements with reference to Theosophical Society. Statement number 1, it was founded by Madam H. P. Blavatsky and Colonel M. S. Olcott. Number 2, it was a revivalist movement. Number 3, Lucifer was one of the important publications of the Theosophical Society to spread their message of theosophy. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is D, that is 1, 2 and 3. So all the statements are correct. The Theosophical Society was officially formed in New York City, United States on 17 November 1875 by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. So it was formed in New York City on 17 November 1875 by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, Colonel Henry Steele Olcott, William Quan Judge, and 16 others. Hence, statement 1 is correct. It was self-described as an unsectarian body of seekers about truth who endeavor to promote brotherhood and strive to serve humanity. The society believed in reincarnation and karma. Their beliefs were based on the philosophy of Upanishads and Samkhya, Yoga, and Vedanta school of thoughts. Thus, it was revivalist in nature and believed in the early secular text of ancient India. Hence, statement 2 is correct. So, what are its objectives? Number 1, to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or color. Number 2, to encourage the study of comparative religion, philosophy, and science. Number 3, to investigate the unexplained laws of nature and the powers latent in man. Number 4, to own, manage, and promote educational institutions like colleges, schools, and hostels within the Indian section. After a few years, Olcott and Blavatsky moved to India and established the international headquarters at Aadhar in Madras, now in Chennai, in 1882. Olcott was its first president and remained president until his death in 1907. The movement gained popularity after the election of Annie Besant as its president in 1907. The Theosophical Society used the print media very effectively to reach people and to spread the message of theosophy throughout the world. The official journal of the Theosophical Society, the Theosophist, appeared in October 1879. Lucifer was another important journal of the Theosophical Society which was published from London. Between 1883 and 1893, the numbers of publications in India under the auspices of the Theosophical Society were about 155, which include the Theosophic Thinker, the Theosophical Gleanings, Thinker, then Brahma Bodhini, Arya Bala Bodhini, etc. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Annie Besant also started the two journals, namely New India, which is a daily, and Commonwealth, a weekly, for the spread of the Home Rule movement. So the correct option is D, that is 1, 2, and 3. Then we have next question is question number 37. Question number 37. With reference to Coalition to End Wildlife Trafficking Online, CEWTO, consider the following statements. Statement 1. It aims to curb the trafficking of wildlife and their products online in partnership with global technology companies. Number 2, it is a joint initiative of the IUCN and the World Wildlife Fund, that is WWF. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is A, that is 1 only. So only statement 1 is correct. The world's biggest e-commerce, technology, and social media companies have joined forces to shut down online marketplaces for wildlife traffickers. Hence, statement 1 is correct. The Coalition to End Wildlife Trafficking Online brings together companies from across the world in partnership with wildlife experts at WWF Traffic, TRAFFIC, the Wildlife Trade Monitoring Network, and the International Fund for Animal Welfare, IFAW, for an industry-wide approach to reduce wildlife trafficking online. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Some of the global companies that are part of this coalition include Google, Facebook, eBay, Microsoft, etc. The partnering companies agree to: number 1, have a clear, comprehensive, and enforceable wildlife trade policy in place. Number 2, develop a tailored company action plan with the coalition. Number 3, enhance staff ability to detect illegal wildlife products. Number 4, roll out user awareness raising materials and citizen monitoring programs to mobilize the public to do their part to stop wildlife trafficking online. Number 5, collaborate with the academic community and other companies to advance automated detection for identification of endangered species content across online platforms. Number 6, participate in coalition meetings and events, share learning and best practices with coalition members, and consider long-term options for sustained reduction in wildlife trafficking online. So the correct answer is A, that is 1 only. Now let's come to question number 38. Recently, the government has been mulling over the idea of increasing the marriageable age in India. In this context, consider the following statements. Statement 1, the minimum age for marriage for bride and grooms is determined by the Indian Majority Act, 1875. Statement 2. As per the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006, all child marriages solemnized between two minor children are considered null and void. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is D. That is neither 1 nor 2. So both the statements are incorrect. Recently, the central government has set up a committee to reconsider the minimum age of marriage for women. Currently, the law prescribes that the minimum age of marriage is 21 years and 18 years for men and women respectively. Statement 1 is not correct. The minimum age of marriage is distinct from the age of majority. So the minimum age of marriage is distinct from the age of majority, which is gender neutral. An individual attains the age of majority at 18 as per the Indian Majority Act 1875. Personal laws of various religions that deal with marriage have their own standards, often reflecting custom. For Hindus, Section 5, Clause 3 of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 sets 18 years as the minimum age for the bride and 21 years as the minimum age for the groom. The Special Marriage Act 1954 and the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006 also prescribe 18 and 21 years as the minimum age of consent for marriage for women and men respectively. Statement 2 is not correct. The Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006 (PCMA) defines child marriage as marriage in which either the girl or the boy is under age, that is, the girl is under 18 years of age or the boy is younger than 21 years. The PCMA has a threefold purpose, that is, prevention of child marriages, protection of children involved, and prosecution of offenders. This law has declared child marriage to be a cognizable and non-bailable offense. An injunction can be issued by the court to prohibit its solemnization, and if a marriage is solemnized after the injunction, then such a marriage shall be declared as null and void. The law also prescribes punishment for performing, conducting, and abetting child marriage. Even the parents are to be punished for promoting or permitting child marriage. In our country, the essential condition for the validity of any marriage is solemnization of the religious ceremonies prescribed by the religion to which the parties belong. Thus, Saptapadi for Hindus. So, Saptapadi for Hindus and offer acceptance for Muslims is the necessary requirement which, if completed, make a marriage valid in the eyes of law, provided the parties are of sound mind and don't fall within the prohibited degrees of relationship with each other. This confers the status of husband and wife upon the parties to the marriage, and the marriages are not void for merely voidable. So this confers the status of husband and wife upon the parties to the marriage, and the marriages are not void but merely voidable. Thus, such marriages would continue to be perfectly valid till the time either of the parties chooses to get it annulled. So the correct answer is D, that is neither 1 nor 2. Now let's come to next question, that is question number 39. Recently, the Green Term Ahead Market (GTAM) was launched in India to number A. Increase the marketing capabilities of tribals for minor forest produce. Number B. Promote a channel of paperless banking system. Number C. Encourage participation in the renewable energy sector. Number D. Promote the creation and trade of carbon credits by companies in India. So the correct answer is C. That is, encourage participation in the renewable energy sector. Recently, the Union Minister launched the Green Term Ahead Market, that is GTAM, for electricity, a move that will lead to an increase in the participants in the renewable energy sector. The initiative will also help in achieving the renewable energy, that is RE, capacity addition targets of the country. The introduction of GTAM platform would lessen the burden on RE-rich states and incentivize them to develop RE capacity beyond their own RPO, that is Renewable Purchase Obligation. This would promote RE merchant capacity addition and help in achieving RE capacity addition targets of the country. GTAM will lead to an increase in the number of participants in the renewable energy sector and benefit buyers of RE through competitive prices and transparent and flexible procurement. Hence, option C is the correct answer. The GTAM contracts will allow additional avenues to RE generators for sale of renewable energy, enable obligated entities to procure renewable power at competitive prices to meet their RPOs, and provide a platform to environmentally conscious open access consumers and utilities to buy green power. The price discovery will take place on a continuous basis, that is price time priority basis. The key features of GTAM include bilateral transaction of RE in nature with clear identification of corresponding buyers and sellers. Thus, there will not be any difficulty in accounting for RPO, that is Renewable Purchase Obligation. Besides, the GTAM contracts will be segregated into solar RPO and non-solar RPO, as RPO targets are also segregated. Now let's come to question number 40. Consider the following statements with respect to celestial bodies. Statement 1. A star with mass similar to Sun becomes white dwarf once it exhausts its nuclear fuel. Number 2. Singularity is the location in space-time where the gravitational field of a celestial body is predicted to become infinite by general theory of relativity. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is C. That is both 1 and 2. So both the statements are correct. Where a star ends up at the end of its life depends on the mass it was born with. Fusion in a star's core produces heat and outward pressure, but this pressure is kept in balance by the inward push of gravity generated by the star's mass. Statement 1 is correct. When the hydrogen used as fuel vanishes and fusion slows, gravity causes the star to collapse in on itself, forming a dense white dwarf. Stars that have a lot of mass may so the stars, okay, there are two types of stars. The one which have very less mass. So when the hydrogen used by fuel vanishes and fusion slows, gravity causes the star to collapse in on itself, forming a dense white dwarf. and stars that have a lot of mass may end their lives as black holes. A low or medium mass star with mass less than about 8 times the mass of our Sun will become a white dwarf. A typical white dwarf is very dense. Its mass is comparable to that of the Sun, while its volume is comparable to that of Earth. And statement 2 is correct. Singularity is a location in space-time where the gravitational field of a celestial body is predicted to become infinite by general relativity in a way that does not depend on the coordinate system. Singularities were first predicated. So the singularities were first predicated as a result of Einstein's theory of general relativity, which resulted in the theoretical existence of black holes. It is a point in which all physical laws are indistinguishable from one another, where space and time are no longer interrelated realities, but merge indistinguishably and cease to have any independent meaning. So the correct answer is C, that is both 1 and 2 are correct. Question number 41. The transformation of aspirational districts program aims to expeditiously improve the socio-economic status by focusing on 5 main themes. Which of the following is or are not part of the 5 main themes? So it should not be part. Number 1, financial inclusion and skill development. Number 2, forest and natural resources. Number 3, agricultural and water resources. Number 4, indigenous technologies and innovation. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the incorrect answer, so which is not a part, it would be option A. That is 2 and 4 only. So 2 and 4. It is not a part. The transformation of aspirational districts program aims to expeditiously improve the socio-economic status of 117 districts from across 28 states. The 3 core principles of the program are convergence of central and state schemes. Number 2, collaboration among citizen and functionary of central and state governments, including district teams, and number 3, competition among districts. Driven primarily by the states, this initiative focuses on the strengths of each district and prioritizes the attainable outcomes for immediate improvement. The scheme focuses on 5 main themes: health and nutrition, education, agriculture and water resources, financial inclusion and skill development, and basic infrastructure, which have a direct bearing on the quality of life and economic productivity of citizens. 81 data points are tracked regularly through a dashboard. Hence, only options 2 and 4 are not correct. Now let's come to their themes, the 5 themes and their weights and data points. Number 1, health and nutrition, 30% weight and 31 data points. Number 2, education, 30% weight, 14 data points. Number 3, agriculture and water resources, 20% weight and 12 data points. Number 4, financial inclusion plus skill developments, 5% plus 5% weight and 6 plus 10 data points. Number 5, basic infrastructure, 10% weight and 8 data points. So which makes a total of 100% weight and a total of 81 data points. The aspirational district program is a product of collective effort in which states are the main drivers. At the Government of India level, the program is anchored by Niti Aayog. In addition, individual ministries have assumed responsibility to drive the progress of districts. For each district, a central Prabhari officer of the rank of Additional Secretary or Joint Secretary has been nominated. And empowered committee under the convenorship of CEO Niti Aayog has been notified to ensure convergence schemes and address specific issues brought out by Prabhari officers. States have been requested to form a committee under the Chief Secretary to implement the program. States have also nominated nodal officers and also state level Prabhari officers. So the correct, so the which is not a part, the which is not a part of the five main themes. It would be option A, that is 2 and 4 only. Now let's come to next question, that is question number 42. Which of the following is or are correct about the famous Hamza Nama paintings? Number 1. These paintings were illustrated on paper and dried 3 leaves. Number 2. It was developed under the patronage of the Mughal ruler Akbar. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is B. That is 2 only. So only statement 2 is correct. The origin of the Mughal school of painting is considered to be a landmark in the history of painting in India. With the establishment of the Mughal Empire, the Mughal school of painting originated in the reign of Akbar in 1560 AD. The Mughal style evolved as a result of a happy synthesis of the indigenous Indian style of painting and the Safavid school of Persian painting. The Mughal style is marked by supple naturalism based on close observation of nature and fine and delicate drawing. It is of high aesthetic merit. It is primarily aristocratic and secular. An illustrated manuscript of the Tuti Nama in the Cleveland Museum of Art, USA, appears to be the first work of the Mughal school. The style of painting in this manuscript shows the Mughal style in its formative stage. The Hamza Nama or Book of Hamza was commissioned by the great Mughal Emperor Akbar in the mid-16th century. The epic story of a character based very closely on the life of the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad chronicles the fantastic adventures of Hamza as he and his band of heroes fight against the enemies of Islam. These stories or illustrations were done on cloth, originally consisting of 1,400 leaves in 17 volumes. Hence, statement 1 is not correct and statement 2 is correct. Now let's come to question number 43. With reference to the State Disaster Response Fund (SDRF), consider the following statements. Number 1, it is constituted under the Disaster Management Act 2005. Number 2, it is jointly funded by the center and respective state governments. Number 3, it can be used for providing immediate relief but not for compensating for the loss of properties. Which of the statements given above are correct? The correct answer is D. That is 1, 2 and 3. So all the statements are correct. The State Disaster Response Fund (SDRF) is the primary fund available with states for disaster response and is constituted under Section 48 of the Disaster Management Act 2005, that is DM Act. The Disaster Management Act 2005 provided that states shall constitute SDRF once the constitution of the State Disaster Management Authority is notified. Hence, statement 1 is correct. The SDRF is used for meeting expenditures for providing immediate relief to the victims of cyclones, drought, earthquake, fire, flood, tsunami, hailstorm, landslide, avalanche, cloudburst, pest attack, and frost and cold wave. Besides, for providing immediate relief to the victims of state-specific disaster within the local context, which are not included in the list of the above notified natural calamities. Ministry of Home Affairs has authorized the state governments to incur an expenditure of 10% of funds available under SDRF. Subject to the procedures laid down therein, this flexibility is applicable only after the state has listed the natural disasters for inclusion and has notified clear and transparent guidelines for relief in case such disasters occur. Recently, the center revised the ceiling for using SDRF from 25% to 35% to contain COVID-19 pandemic. The financial assistance from SDRF or NDRF is for providing immediate relief and is not compensation for loss or damage to properties or crops. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Further, the provision for disaster preparedness, restoration, reconstruction, and mitigation are not a part of SDRF. The DM Act specifies that for such activities, a separate fund called Disaster Mitigation Fund has to be constituted. However, 5% of the annual allocation to SDRF can be kept for specified capacity building activities by the states in the area of disaster management. The norms of assistance is reviewed comprehensively after the award of successive finance commissions, taken into account various factors including the price rise. It is jointly funded by the center and respective states. In 2018, the central government enhanced its contribution from 75% to 90% towards SDRF and rest 10% by the states. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 44. With reference to whales, consider the following statements. Statement number 1, they are marine animals that are herbivorous in nature. Number 2, they enhance primary productivity and carbon sequestration of the oceans. Number 3, Indian Ocean Whale Sanctuary is the only marine protected area recognized by the International Whaling Commission. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So, the correct answer for question number 44 is A, that is 2 only. So, only statement 2 is correct. Statement 1 is not correct. Whales are not herbivores, they are carnivores. Although whales do not eat the same meats as land animals, they are known to consume fish, squid, octopus, and other types of foods that are considered carnivorous foods. Statement 2 is correct. Whales provide a broad array of ecosystem services, especially cultural. Among their many ecological roles, whales recycle nutrients and enhance primary productivity in areas where they feed. They do this by feeding at depth and releasing fecal plumes near the surface, which supports plankton growth, a remarkable process described as a well pump. Supporting plankton growth helps in increasing carbon sequestration. Whales also combat carbon naturally. Big whales such as filter feeding baleen and sperm whales help sequester carbon. They hoard carbon in their bodies, stockpiling tons of it like trees. Statement 3 is not correct. Two sanctuaries are currently designated by the International Whaling Commission, both of which prohibit commercial whaling. The first of this, the Indian Ocean Whale Sanctuary, was established in 1979 and covers the whole of the Indian Ocean south to 55 degrees south. The second was adopted in 1994 and covers the waters of the Southern Ocean around Antarctica. Now let's come to next question, that is question number 45. Which of the following statements is which of the following statements is correct with respect to provisions of the Government of India Act 1935? Statement A or option A, it provided for the separation of Afghanistan from British India. Number B, governor in provinces to act on the advice of ministers responsible to the provincial legislatures. Number C, it demarcated the central and provincial subjects for the first time. Number D, it introduced bicameralism in all the provinces of British India. So the correct answer is B. So the correct answer is B. That is, governor in provinces to act on the advice of ministers responsible to the provincial legislatures. Government of India Act of 1935. The Act marks a second milestone towards a completely responsible government in India. It was a lengthy and detailed document having 321 sections and 10 schedules. The features of this Act were as follows. It provided for the establishment of an All India Federation consisting of provinces and princely states as units. It abolished diarchy in the provinces and introduced provincial autonomy in its place. The provinces were allowed to act as autonomous units of administration in their defined spheres. It provided for the adoption of diarchy at the center. The Act introduced responsible governments in provinces, that is, the governor was required to act with the advice of ministers responsible to the provincial legislature. Hence, option B is the correct answer. It introduced bicameralism in 6 out of 11 provinces. Thus, the legislatures of Bengal, Bombay, Madras, Bihar, Assam, and the United Provinces were made bicameral, consisting of a legislative council, that is upper house, and a legislative assembly, that is lower house. Hence, option D is not correct. It further extended the principle of communal representation. It provided for the establishment of a federal court which was set up in 1937. The Government of India Act of 1919 made a provision for classification of the central and provincial subjects. Hence, option C is not correct. Anglo-Afghan War, also called Afghan Wars, 3 conflicts from 1839 to 42, 1878 to 80, and in 1919. So in these 3 conflicts, in which Great Britain, from its base in India, sought to extend its control over neighboring Afghanistan and to oppose Russian influence there. The First World War and the Russian Revolution of 1917 created a new situation in Anglo-Afghan relations. The war gave rise to strong anti-British feeling in Muslim countries, and the Russian Revolution inspired new anti-imperialist sentiments in Afghanistan, as in fact all over the world. The Afghans now demanded full independence from British control. Habibullah, who had succeeded Abdul Rahman in 1901 as Amir, was assassinated on 20 February 1919, and his son Amanullah, the new Amir, declared open war on British India. Peace came in 1921 by a treaty recognizing the independence of Afghanistan was signed at Rawalpindi, now in Pakistan, on August 8, 1919 and was amended in 1921. Hence option A is not correct. So the correct answer is option B. Question number 46. In the context of ecology, aposematism refers to number A defense mechanism used by an organism to change colors and blend in with their environment to hide from predators. Number B, a biological means by which an organism advertises its dangerous nature to a potential predator using conspicuous colors. Number C, a morphological adaptation where animals often possess the same color as the leaves or twigs on which they rest. Number D, a process where a given genotype expresses different phenotypes in different ecological settings. So the correct answer is B. The correct answer is B. That is a biological means by which an organism advertises its dangerous nature to a potential predator using conspicuous colors. Aposematism, also called aposematic mechanism, is biological means by which a dangerous organism advertises its dangerous nature to a potential predator. Aposematism always involves advertising signals, which may take the form of conspicuous coloration or other perceivable characteristics. Hence, option B is correct. The predator, having recognized the dangerous organism as an unfavorable prey, thereupon desist from attacking it. Aposematic or warning mechanisms have evolved along with protective systems. It is advantageous for the protected organism not to risk the injury that is likely to occur in even a successfully repelled attack by a predator. Aposematic signals are beneficial for both predator and prey since both avoid potential harm. The most common aposematic is the possession of bright contrasting colors such as the black and yellow of many wasps and the red of ladybird beetles. Phenotypic plasticity refers to the capacity of the same organisms to exhibit different characteristics under varied environmental conditions. It is the ability of some genotype to produce more than one phenotype when exposed to different environments. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 47. The RBI's voluntary detention route (VRR) aims to number A. encourage flow of remittances by NRI into India. Number B. allow mortgage-free loans. So it allow mortgage-free loans to the MSMEs. Number C. It enable financial institutions to recover some of their losses from stressed assets. Option number D. Attract long-term and stable FPI investments in India's debt market. So the correct answer is D. That is attract long-term and stable FPI investments in India's debt market. Reserve Bank, in consultation with the Government of India and Securities Exchange Board of India, that is SEBI, had proposed to introduce a separate channel called the Voluntary Retention Route, that is VRR, to enable FPIs to invest in debt markets in India. Broadly, investments through the route will be free of the macroprudential and other regulatory prescriptions applicable to FPI investments in debt markets, provided uh, provided FPIs voluntarily commit to retain a required minimum percentage of their investments in India for a period of their choice. So, what is its objective? The objective of the VRR channel is to attract long-term and stable FPI investments into debt markets while providing FPIs with operational flexibility to manage their investments. Hence, option D is the correct answer. Eligible investors. Any entity registered as an FPI with SEBI is eligible to participate through this route. The Reserve Bank of India introduced the Voluntary Retention Route, that is VRR, for investments by foreign portfolio investors, that is FPIs, on March 1st, 2019, and the amount of 75,000 crore rupees was offered for investment in two tranches. In January 2020, RBI reopened allotment of investment limit under the revised voluntary retention route, that is VRR, for investments by foreign portfolio investors, that is FPIs. The investment cap through VRR was doubled to 1.5 lakh crore rupees. Now let's come to next question, that is question number 48. Consider the following statements with respect to Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019 and the related rules. Number 1. The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir will have a Council of Ministers of not more than 15% of the total number of members in the Assembly. Number 2. Anyone who has resided for a period of 15 years in the Union Territory of J&K is considered as a domicile in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Number 3. It empowers the Union Parliament to adopt any one or more of the languages in use in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir or Delhi as the official language for all the official purposes. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is B. That is 2 only. So only statement 2 is correct. So only statement 2 is correct. The Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019 reorganizes the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir into the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir with a legislature, the Union Territory of Ladakh without a legislature. Important provisions of the Act. Number 1. The Act provides for a legislative assembly for the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and the total number of seats in the assembly will be 107. Of these, 24 seats will remain vacant on account of certain areas of J&K being under the occupation of Pakistan. Point number 2. The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir will have a Council of Ministers of not more than 10% of the total number of members in the Assembly. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. Point number 3. The High Court of Jammu and Kashmir will be the common High Court for the two Union Territories. Point number 4. The Legislative Council of the State of J&K will be abolished. As per the recent orders of the Ministry of Home Affairs 2020, the domiciles have been defined as: number 1, anyone who has resided for a period of 15 years in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, or has studied for a period of 7 years and appeared in class 10th or 12th examination. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Number 2, children of government officials who have served in J&K for a total period of 10 years, or children of such residents of J&K who reside outside J&K, but their parents should fulfill any of the conditions provided. The order provides protection of domiciles to any post in the government, including senior level positions in Group A and Group B category and Group D category. Earlier, all jobs in the erstwhile state of J&K were exclusively reserved for permanent residents of the state. The Legislative Assembly may by law adopt any one or more of the languages in use in the Union Territories of J&K, or Hindi as the official language, or languages to be used for all or any of the official languages or any of the official purposes of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Hence, statement 3 is not correct. The business in the Legislative Assembly of the Union Territory of J&K shall be transacted in the official language or languages of the Union Territory of J&K, or in Hindi or in English, provided that the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly or person acting as such, as the case may be, may permit any member who cannot adequately express himself in any of the languages aforesaid to address the Legislative Assembly in his mother tongue. So the correct answer is B, that is 2 only. Now let's come to next question, that is question number 29. Which of the following are the applications of carbon dots? Number 1, targeted drug delivery. Number 2, detecting herbicide pollution. Number 3, increasing the efficiency of solar cells. Number 4, bioimaging. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The correct answer is D. That is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So all of them are correct. Recently, researchers from Assam have used the commonly found invasive plant invasive plant, that is water hyacinth or water hyacinth, to produce carbon dots. These extremely tiny, less than 10 nanometer particles can be used for detecting a commonly used herbicide. Carbon dots, CDs, are zero-dimensional carbon-based materials in the size range of a few tens of nanometers. CDs were first isolated from arc discharge soot in 2004 and immediately attracted significant attention due to their photoluminescent properties. Historically, CDs have exhibited highly desirable and tunable properties. Example: up conversion, photoluminescence, and biocompatibility, rendering them promising candidates for wide applications in bioimaging, disease therapy, and optoelectronics. The non-toxicity and biocompatibility of CDs enable them with broad applications in biomedicine as drug carriers, fluorescent tracers, as well as controlling drug release. CDs can be used for bioimaging due to their fluorescence emissions and biocompatibility. By injecting solvents containing CQDs into a living body, images in vivo can be obtained for detection or diagnosis purposes or diagnosis purposes. CD physio CD physiochemical properties. Example, dispersibility, photoluminescence and biocompatibility have been rationally tuned to improve performance in several applications, including light-emitting diets, bioimaging, and tumor therapy. CDs have been employed in emerging applications, including antibacterial agents, self-healing materials, and mass spectrometry. So it's used in even mass spectrometry. Griffith University researchers synthesized carbon dots from human hair waste, which can detect trace amounts of chloroform in water, a major byproduct of water disinfection. Carbon dots and environmentally friendly and relatively cheap material are used for significantly increasing the efficiency of solar cells and light emitting diets. Hence, option D is the correct answer. So, all the statements are correct. Now, let's come to question number 50. Hari, a 45-year-old man, goes to his friend to know about various government schemes which he can avail. Going by Hari's age, his friend sincerely suggests him the following. Number 1, he can subscribe to Atal Pension Yojana and would start receiving a minimum pension of rupees 5,000 per month at the age of 60. Number 2, he can avail Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana by paying a sum of less than rupees 500 annually. In this context, which of the following statements is correct? So, number option A, Hari's friend should not have suggested him the second scheme because Hari's age had exceeded the maximum age limit. Number B, Hari was misguided with respect to both the schemes. Number C, Hari's friend was mistaken or unaware with regard to two provisions of the first scheme. Number D, Hari is eligible for both the schemes. So the correct answer is C. That is, Hari's friend was mistaken or unaware with regard to two provisions of the first scheme. Atal Pension Yojana. The Atal Pension Yojana APY was launched in 2015 to create a universal social security system for all Indians, especially the poor, the underprivileged, and the workers in the unorganized sector. It replaced the Swavalamban scheme. Number 1, the subscribers of this scheme would receive the fixed minimum pension at the age of 60 years depending on their contributions. It is open to all Indians between the age of 18 and 40 having a saving bank account in a bank or post office. Therefore, the minimum period of contribution by any subscriber under APY would be 20 years or more. It is mainly focused on citizens in the unorganized sector. Under the APY, subscribers would receive a fixed minimum pension of rupees 1,000 to rupees 5,000 per month at the age of 60 years. Depending on their contributions, central government co-contribute 50% of the total contribution or rupees 1,000 per annum, whichever is lower, which itself would vary on the age of joining the APY. As Hari is 45 years old, he is not eligible for this scheme. As in the given context, Hari's friends suggest him this yojana going by his age. It is clear that he is mistaken or unaware of the age criterion for this scheme. Also, the minimum pension is rupees 1000 and not rupees 5000, which his friend was not aware of. Hence, option C is the correct answer. Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana (PMJJY) was also launched in the year 2015 as a one-year life insurance scheme renewable from year to year. Available to citizens including NRIs in the age group of 18 to 50 years. Thus, Hari is eligible for this scheme. It provides coverage of rupees 2 lakh in case of death due to any reason. It charges an annual premium of rupees 330, which is less than rupees 500. Subject to annual renewal. Benefits are available till the age of 55. Entry, however, will not be possible beyond the age of 50 years. Risk cover under PMJJBY is applicable only after the first 45 days of enrollment. It is offered or administered through LIC and other Indian private life insurance companies. With regard to this scheme, Hari's friend was correct in his suggestion to Hari to avail the same. So the correct answer is C. That's all guys. See you in my next video. Bye.